Welcome to the Veritas Equipping Podcast, a podcast designed to provide insight, resources, and biblical wisdom. Our mission as Veritas Church is raise up mature disciples, send out everyday missionaries, glorify God. Join us as we pursue Jesus to become mature disciples and effective disciple makers for God's glory.
Veritas, welcome to our Equipping Podcast. We're in the middle of our series on parenting, and we have some special guests with us today, Jess and Celsey Huber. Jess is our family, will be family ministry leader in Urbana soon. We're excited about that, but has been our kids ministry leader here for, is it 2 years?
It'll be, I guess it would have been 3 this summer.
Yeah, so served faithfully in our kids ministry and is heading up to our plant in Urbana to lead there as well, and with his wife Celsey. And we're going to talk about parenting specifically in little kids. But before we jump into that topic, tell us a little bit about your family.
I am Jess and my wife Celsey.
Hello.
We have been married for over 12 years. We're excited to start a family, and that kind of got delayed quite a bit. Didn't have a kid until 8 years into our marriage, which has actually been a huge blessing to us. But we have 3 boys right now: Harvey, who's 4, Whitaker, who's 2, and Tommy, who will be a year next month. And so that's always fun. We also have a dog, Brandy.
4, 2, and almost 1.
Almost 1, yeah.
That's exciting times.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of about us a little bit. Celsey works at St. Luke's, the hospital, and I obviously I work here.
Obviously.
Yeah. You already said that, though. So.
That's why it's obvious.
Yes, that's what I mean.
That's why it's obvious. All right. So you're kind of in the storm or in the thick of early years of parenting, 4, 2, 1. So you don't have a lot to go back on, but like in the midst of it, what lessons on parenting are you learning right now?
Kids are like such a big reflection of ourselves. Like what we have problems with, our kids have problems with as well. But because they're kids, you can see it so much easier, and they can't hide it as easily as we can. So that's something that we've been able to see even there. Just like when they are struggling with something, it's been in a conversation between the two of us of like.
That's a reflection of your own weaknesses?
Yeah.
Even one time where I'm interjecting with stories.
Good.
I'm good at that.
I'm glad.
You're good at the content. I'm good at the stories.
So listen when Celsey's
and you can check out a little bit when I'm talking. That's pretty much how everything goes there. But, an example of that, and I've even shared this with quite a few people, there was a time where Harvey did something really bad. Like he hit his brother, and he hit Whitaker. And I was mad. Like really mad. So I obviously raised my voice. I went and disciplined him and slammed the door behind him. Now 20 minutes before that, he got in trouble for slamming the door. And then I go and I sit on the couch and I go, ugh, like that. And I should have corrected him. Like that was right for me to correct him. Mm-hmm. But then Celsey goes, you realize that you just yelled at your son because he yelled and hit you did exactly what he did. And so it was just I was like, oh, man.
Yeah, but you're the parent. He's the kid.
I know. Well, yeah, that's what I said to Celsey. No, I didn't say that. That would have been bad.
Any mistakes that you guys feel like or things you're currently working on of, hey, we're trying to get better? Because every time we ask parents to be on this podcast, they're like, are you sure you want?
Great. I'll be the good example of a bad example.
Yeah. Yeah. And Sam and I were talking, we were like, well, all the perfect parents were busy, so we had to get, you guys. Of course, there's no perfect parents. So what are the things in parenting right now that you're saying, this is what we're working on?
I think probably just in a lot of our life, we're probably working on, obviously anger and patience with little kids. Like there's so many things that you have to repeat and repeat and repeat. So just being patient with that and being slow to anger with them. But then also I think having a little bit more of a proactive approach to a lot of things versus just reactionary. And not even in, obviously that can happen just in all of your life, like your workplace or your relationship with your spouse, but a plan for how we're going to disciple them, versus just like, oh, well, they learned about that at school or from their friends. So now we'll talk about that. So, and obviously that's going to happen, but it'd be great to kind of start. We probably should have done it even before, I don't know, when we got married, like have a plan in place, just of how we were going to be proactive with some of the things that we teach our children.
Yeah. Just working with kids and families, is there a common struggle that you see parents dealing with today, or parents of young kids?
I mean, I can only point to the things that usually it's really easy for me to see other people's struggles because it's my same struggle. Mm-hmm. So that would probably be things like being consistent and that consistent behavior where I'm going to react the same way and I'm going to hold you accountable even if we're not in public, and that having the same standards and making sure that I'm having that consistency of even going to church, that consistency of, we're going to do this. And this is a consistency. This is the rhythm that we're setting, the consistency of prayer, the consistency of that, and not just praying, during certain times, like before a meal or at bedtime. And even that's even funny because there's been times where, and I've tried to like implement that and be proactive, where Harvey's been like, or Harvey and Whit, they've said, oh man, my tummy hurts, or this hurts, or they say something else. I was like, hey, we should pray about that. Yeah, we should pray about that. Let's pray about that right now. And then Harvey will say, well, I'll wait for your watch to go off, because my watch goes off at 10:02 every day. So they asked me, like, why is your watch beeping like that?
Can you pray if it's not 10:02?
Right, yeah. So like they thought, they were just like, well, we got to wait till it's 10:02, Dad. So we can't pray yet. And I was just like, no, we can pray anytime. We can always talk to God. So just like little things like that, and just showing consistency, not just with those type of disciplinary issues, but just with those daily rhythms, especially with your walk with Jesus. So.
Yeah, consistency is so hard, even in the midst of our own laziness of, I said no technology, but I'm tired, so yeah, just watch the screen for a while.
Right.
Like, being able to be consistent is such a big deal, especially in those early ages. You mentioned praying with your kids. Do you guys do a family devotional, or how do you spiritually lead 4-year-olds and 2-year-olds and 1-year-olds?
We don't do a family devotional. We do have a lot of like spiritual books that are like just right alongside with all of our other books that we read. So I think sometime I'd like to be able to make it a little more formalized, but right now is not the time for our kids. So I think there's even more just like different things that we like try to interject with our normal like day-to-day things. Like even like Harvey was asking me questions one time of like, Mom, why do I have to take a bath? Why do I have to do this? Why are we giving the car, like, why are we going for a car wash? And it's like a normal thing for me to say, because we're going to take good care of the things God has given us. And so that's like a really like 4-year-old level of like, we're going to like teach him to be a good steward of his things.
I love that, because I think so many times families can feel this pressure of like, all right, it's family devotional time, and it's a struggle and it's hard, and good on you if you do that. But when I look at Deuteronomy 6, it's kind of like, hey, as you walk, and when you're at home, when all these things, it's like, it's just constantly throughout the day, you're pointing kids to Christ. You're having those opportunities to tell those stories. It is what's huge.
Yeah. We don't, and we need to, but I think like that rhythm that we're talking about, and even thinking of kids and even ourselves, where I think my parents, we had a family devotional every single morning before we ran off to school, and it was very not great, so, but I do remember, we're going to make time for this. And sometimes it was, we're running late, so this is going to be a 2-minute thing, even though it's supposed to be a 10-minute thing. But making sure that there is room for there, and taking advantage, obviously, of those moments. I'm kind of even quoting like Family Discipleship, the book, Family Discipleship, but just taking advantage of those moments for sure, and having a plan, because that's one thing that we just like sometimes just like forget about. We just forget, we should probably make a plan about that, because we have plans for everything. We have plans for so many things, but are we actually making a plan for Jesus?
Yeah. Family Discipleship, is that a book you'd recommend?
I would recommend it. Yeah, I mean it's a great book. I mean I was forced to read it here, but
Who wrote that?
Adam Griffin and Matt Chandler.
Okay.
So it's really good. It just kind of goes through that what family discipleship actually looks like. It obviously makes you take a deeper look into what you're doing, and something that really sticks with me and Kelsey is we were talking with Matthew Morgan, an elder here. He works at church here, and so Matthew told us his story about a guy who came to him who was very pro guns. Okay, and he's going through like, at this age, I'm going to teach my kids how to do this, and at this age, they're going to carry, but they're not going to. And at this age, and he had this whole massive plan on introducing their kids to guns.
Gun safety,
gun
and
safety,
all this stuff,
and gun safety and hunting, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds good.
We were eating it up because
we
were like, that's part of our family.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, that's a good idea. And then all of a sudden, and Matthew brought back that guy. He's like, man, that's great. What's your plan to introduce your kid to Jesus? And it's just like, whoa. We make plans to introduce your kids to music. Like we're like, oh, well, we'll learn the piano first. And then, we make plans to introduce them to school. We make plans to introduce them to health, plans to introduce them to sports. But are we really making the actual plan to introduce them to Jesus? Because that's the best gift we could ever give them. And that's what the family discipleship book kind of really pierces at, for me at least. And that's what it really strung hold at. So
that's really good advice. Let's jump into that. 3 pieces of advice or counsel you would give to parents of little kids. I
think to be a good example of what a good disciple looks like, you can tell them what to do, and you can say all these things, but they're really just watching everything that you do. So part of it is even just like working on yourself, even though they talk about if you're on an airplane, if the plane's going down and the oxygen is coming out, like put the oxygen on yourself first so that then you can help your kids. So you need to pour into your own relationship with Jesus so that you can help them.
That's good.
Anything else, Kelsey? I was like, man, I don't really...
I wrote it out for you, honey.
Oh,
no,
okay,
I'm just kidding.
No, I think just kind of picking up on one of the things that I've kind of learned, and even the story that I shared earlier, practicing, like letting your kids see your sin. And it's okay to ask for forgiveness. And even that story about Harvey, when I went and I overreacted and did that. Now, I should have corrected him, and I did correct him, but not the right way.
Yeah.
I had to go back and apologize. And I said, man, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done that. And actually, I was even listening to, and Matt Chandler has said this in the family discipleship book, him and Adam Griffin, but he even said it in a better way that I kind of heard through a podcast that he did. And he said that the grace is for you. You're not gonna nail it. And then he said, show me a parent who doesn't ask for forgiveness from their kids, and I'll show you a parent that doesn't understand the gospel. And really just like piercing at that, and how can my kids be good? Like, how can they actually apologize well if I'm not even doing it myself? So really taking advantage of that opportunity, because I apologize to my kids a lot because I screw up a lot, and they know I do. And especially they love to tell Kelsey when she gets home how I screwed up, like they're like, well, Dad did this, and then Kelsey's like, oh, really? The first thing they say to her is, Daddy did this, but he said sorry and I forgave him. I was like, dude, thanks for ratting me out the first 10 seconds she walks in the door. But literally that needs to be a regular rhythm in your house, is forgiveness. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's good. And that's we model, that is part of leadership, by modeling humility and grace and forgiveness. And I'm glad you said you should have corrected him, because that's part of parenting, and parents wrestle, especially in the early age of discipline. But I think it's one of the principles is being firm early helps with freedom later. Especially they talk about those years from 0 to 3 is you lay a foundation to really build upon that as well.
Well, and they talk about that even like in the secular world, like your personality is all the way formed by the age of 7. So if you think about how that's even going to like come to fruition when they're adults, like how do they get what they want, whether in a relationship as an adult or at a workplace, like how they get that is all like pretty much set in stone by those early years. So there's a lot of work to be done with little kids, but it's worth it to do the work on the front end than have to do it years down the road.
For sure. What else, guys? Pour out this wisdom.
Well, Kelsey said it's set at 7, and I'm just like, yeah, I guilt trip people all the time. That's how I got Kelsey. So that's definitely an action, I guess, but yeah. I think, and Kelsey kind of, we were talking through this a little bit, knowing, going through this, but obviously, like she said, how can we make disciples if we're not disciples ourselves? And then also, it's not just a one moment thing. Like, man, I did that really good. Because I can tell you, and I've even pointed to some really good examples of when I did it well. But what am I doing throughout the long run? Yeah. Because you can be really good for 6 months. Like, I can be a really good husband for a week. Yeah. I can be a good husband for like an hour. Or less. Kelsey's giving me a look like, you guys, I wish this was on video, because some of the looks that I've been getting, she's just like, really?
An hour. That's generous.
Oh, that's really generous.
We'll work up to that.
But like, you can be a okay, or you can be a decent husband for a certain amount of time. You can be an okay father, and there's certain moments that you do really well. But the long game is the long game is the most important part.
I think that's why you have to surrender even like being a parent to Jesus, because he loves our kids far more than we ever could. And, so even though you do all the work on the front end, like there's still like, it's up to God to bring that to fruition, to bring them to him.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. It's the long game. It's such a good point. We've used this illustration in discipleship, but Jess, you and I both love to smoke meat and barbecue and getting a good brisket.
We should do a podcast on that, actually.
We could talk for a long time on that.
Yeah, we could do that.
But that idea of like, all right, it's going to be a 16-hour smoke to get the meat to be this tender. Like, you can't microwave that. And I think same thing when it comes to parenting. It's like, all right, I got this new plan and it lasts for 2 weeks. Or it's like, all right, I got this new initiative and it lasts for a month. But what's really going to form your kids is how you parented for the 18 years. That's really going to, like, your consistency, your character over that long. So there might be short-term things you deal with, but your character over the long haul is really going to shape them.
Yeah, that plays a huge role. And then another thing that I know Kelsey's talked about too is that having good coaches, and that's like having people around you. And even when we weren't parents yet, I mean, being around other family members, other just friends, and seeing them parent as well, it's really good. It's really good. Now, of course, you go through that, and you're just like, okay, we're not doing that, But other times, you're like, man, they did that really, really well. And so, being around that, there's even a young couple who just got married here at Veritas, and we kind of apologized when they came over to our house, and we're just like, oh, I'm sorry, it's kind of crazy, and we got 3 boys running around, and just. And they said, no, this is great. Like, how are we going to know how to be good parents if we're not like around other parents? Like, if we're not seeing them do that. So living life one-on-one. So having a good, and
picking good ones, because it's different too than, like, there's so much access right now with social media to lots of different resources. And I think I was listening to a podcast by Jen Wilkin, and she was saying that when she was young, there was just her mom and her mother-in-law. And so part of that was healthy for her, that, she wasn't subjecting herself to all the different ideas. It was like, she saw that it went well for them, and listening to a couple people that were going to be really pouring into her life. But at the same time, you have to know what you need if that's not a good resource for you. Like,
because that's true. There's so much out there, and you can find some professional to reinforce what you already want to hear. But when you're in a church community, you can look at people. It's like, all right, I want to have kids like your kids are. Like, right. I respect that. I respect you as followers of Jesus. I should have a humble heart to listen into that. And that's a beautiful thing about church community. Yeah. With so much social media and podcasts for adults and the information we get. But I'd bring it back to little kids when it comes to technology. One piece of advice is delay technology. Now, I'm not going to give an age. You got to figure that out. But if your little kid gets a phone the first year they want it, that's probably not a good idea.
Right.
Like there should be some delay of like, I don't think you should get it as early as you want it. But what is delaying technology access?
And sometimes it's that modeling part again, because my kids don't know exactly what I'm doing on my phone. So even being clear, like, and putting it down, and that's a huge struggle where it's like, even this past week is like, okay, I'm putting my phone down. Like even like last night, I was like, Kels, I don't know where my phone is because I put it down when I got home and I haven't touched it since I've been home, kind of thing. And Kels was just like, thank you for doing that.
Well, there was somebody in our small group our connection group that wanted to make like an even like more radical choice about that. He knew that he was struggling with it, and he like got rid of his smartphone and went and found a like refurbished flip phone that he could be more intentional with his family.
But I was upset about that because I kept texting him and I thought he was being rude and not texting back, but he just wasn't getting them. And I was like, oh man, come on. But
I thought that was pretty like how much he valued what he needed to change.
Yeah, and just being present. That's something we're working on. Mars told me the other week, hey, we need like a basket, everybody's phones.
Yeah.
We need to go in, let's put this away and have some family time. Anything else, guys?
Kels, what do you think? No.
I'd say just like give 100%. Like the day is never done until they're all in bed, and then it's still sometimes not.
I love that though. Like give 100%. There's like the athlete or the ex-athlete. There's not much athletic left here, but like the old sport is when it comes to parenting. When you say give 100%, this is a high calling. This is a big deal. And to say like, yes, put effort into it. Discipleship starts in the home, and your kids are the most important disciples you're making. So don't.
It's a really, really big deal. And even to a point where I think I've even shared this with you, Jake, and I read a book last year that kind of talked about this. And I've gotten advice from a lot of people, and I've heard many, many men of God say to me, the best gift you can give to your child is by treating their mother well, by treating your spouse, like by being amazing to your spouse. Like, and don't get me wrong, like that's an amazing like thing to do, and you want to make sure and do that. And that's a huge priority. You guys did the marriage, the 4-part marriage podcast on, and so really good, just like lining out what is a biblical marriage, what does the Bible describe as a good, healthy marriage. So that is obviously huge and foundational, because you got to be on the right team and you got to be unified through that. It's not just, well, Kelsey does it this way and I do it this way. It needs to be unity, and that's that consistency we're talking about. But I've heard people say, oh yeah, the best gift you can give your kids is loving their mother well. Well, in reality, that's not true at all. The best gift we can give our kids is Jesus. So we need to live that out in how we actually, not only that, but I'm treating your mother well, not just because she's amazing and I love her, but because Jesus is better. And that's the picture that we can set up with our kids. And the best part about that, especially with young kids, is you can screw up a lot and they probably won't remember that. like I don't remember what happened when I was 3 or 4 for the most part, but it's like the practice part. Like you can keep practicing and practicing and practicing, and by the time they get to a certain age, you're like, oh, maybe I'm better. Like this is better, But to be able to do that at the young age is just a huge and crucial thing that Kelsey encourages me to do, and points those things out when I do them wrong.
I point out the good stuff too.
You do point out the good stuff. She actually, there's a really good, Kelsey gave me, I'm just laying it all on the table.
Yeah, keep going. It's great.
I said this at the last parent commissioning class that we did. I said, my wife gave me one of the biggest compliments followed by one of the biggest convictions. And it was all in like a 10-second frame. And she said, Jesse, you are probably one of the best person I've seen discipline or redirect a child when you're in control. And like it was just like, wow. Like I was like, man, I felt really good, and then all of a sudden when you're control,
very tactful rebuke.
Very tactful. She's very good at that. She's very good at that. So
well, speaking of parent commissionings, one of the things I'd want to encourage parents of young kids is I truly believe it takes a church to raise a child, and it's such a gift. Now, you don't outsource the discipleship of your kids to the church, but you need to see the church as a tool. So when they go to Sunday school class and they learn these lessons, talk with them about it, interact with them, connect with other parents that are trying to fight the same fight of teaching their kids to know, love, and obey Jesus. But see the church as a tool, not something you just outsource. Discipleship your kids do.
We say that the parent is the primary disciple maker of the kid, and because they're around them the most. We have 75 minutes on a Sunday morning,
right? And you got the rest of the time. Right. So if your kid's a brat, that's on you. We'll help the best we can.
I don't know about
you got to own that.
You got to own that. No, and we even said that too. We're like, well, we can't promise that our kids won't grow up and be brats or be, not nice. And
what
stuff.
You did for 6 days, we can't undo in 75 minutes.
Right. Yeah. I'm just like, I gotta. Yeah, maybe we could have them sign something. What do you like? No, but I think it's one of those things that, like specifically talking about. Being the disciple maker of your kids. What was I saying? Actually, I'm just totally lost.
Keep going.
It's you'll eventually find a point.
I eventually find it, but it's just lost. Kelsey, just tell me what to say. It's okay.
Whatever.
No. That is a big deal, guys. To see, that's two ditches you fall in. One is just like outsourcing that. Just like I don't know what to do. I don't know how to answer these questions. Go to Sunday school class. Hopefully they'll do it. And take ownership of your own kid's spiritual development. But don't have an independent spirit on it that takes a church to raise a child, and lean into that and use the church as a tool in discipling your kids. It's a hard job, parenting, and these early years are so crucial, and we want to help you do that as a church to be a resource to you. So hopefully this helps. If you're really struggling in some kind of area of parenting, especially at little kids' time, reach out to any of our leaders at the church. We'd love to come alongside and help in any way we can. We love you guys.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Veritas Equipping Podcast. If you have any questions you would like us to address or ideas on how we can serve you better, please reach out to us by email at info@veritascr.church and put podcast in the subject line.